Is the moon landing real or fake? It's up to you to decide. And on tonight's episode, we're going to investigate. Bart Sibrel is probably one of the biggest proponents that claims that the moon landing is fake. Buzz Aldrin ended up punching him in the face because...
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon?
I'm not trying to get in the middle of anything.
Tell him to get out of here.
This is a hotel.
We'll call
Right,
the police.
We pay.
Come on in here, we'll call the police.
Solicit
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon?
It doesn't, sir, I don't have nothing to do with this, but
Okay.
you cannot solicit on this.
You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black, if I ever thought of it. Saying I misrepresented myself.
Away from me.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief. You're a coward and a liar and a thief. You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
He was essentially calling him out, asking him to put his hand to the Bible to testify that he really did go to the moon. And he had his fill, and I guess he took a whack at him. So I guess he has paid some of his dues for some of his claims. We're going to review his video that claims that the moon landing is fake in 45 minutes. I am a simulation theorist, so that by proxy would also make me a conspiracy theorist. I'll cover other things and conspiracies on my channel, proving back that we are, in my opinion, living in a simulation. And I don't know if this necessarily proves or denies whether we are, but it's an interesting topic to look at, and I will give my 2 cents on it at the end. But I will say in front of this that I was brought up to believe that the moon landing was real. I was never really given too much information to think that it was fake. I started hearing about these things when I was older, when my dad would watch a lot of these different conspiracy theories on the different shows on cable. I would, in the background, hear a lot of them. So I'm very familiar with it from that perspective. But recently, due to the fact that Artemis is back touchdown on Earth, and again, supposedly there will be another flight to the moon, there is a lot of ramp up about this. And I think it would be really fun to cover to see if any of what he's saying has grounds, in my opinion. And I have no real vested interest in whether we went to the moon or not. Because if we went there, it just goes along with the narrative that I have been believing my entire life for the most part. And if it's not true, it would just be another notch in the government belt where they would have lied about something, because you've seen that I've covered in some of my other episodes. If you deep dive through my channel, we've covered other conspiracies, but a lot of them are not technically conspiracies. They did happen, things like Project Bluebird, things that involve projects that were going on in the government that you would not believe were real, or that you couldn't believe would be happening, but it really did happen. So if this was faked for some reason, I wouldn't be ultra shocked, so to speak, given everything I know about the illusion of all of this and the illusion that I think is the simulation. Now, would a moon landing prove a simulation or not? Like I mentioned earlier, I don't really think so in a general term, but for me, it does. It just proves that there's additional planets that we can land on, or can land on moons. We can land on other planets like potentially Mars and things of this nature, and have space stations there. That's what it seems like people are trying to get into. So it would just be unlocking another portion of the simulation. If it was fake, then it would definitely play into the whole illusion that all of this really is behind the scenes. This is for educational purposes only. I don't want Bart to come after me or anything like this. Like, it's all for educational fun purposes. he has his right to believe whatever he wants to believe, and other people have their right to believe whatever they want to believe. And by the end of this video, I will let you know what I think. But for the most part, I like to take a very neutral stance on a lot of these different things. I think that's why a lot of scientists like to claim that they're not really sure about things, because we'll talk about that later.
Where to begin? Well, I guess I would just begin with this one photograph. Here's a picture I took, actually it's a video that I took out in my neighborhood. This is taken in sunlight, right? So remember, conditions on the moon are in sunlight.
I guess he took this photo, and this is going to be one of the main arguments, is the shadows on the moon landing images and videos. It feels off to certain people, like obviously to Bart.
And this is what sunlight does. The sun's about 93 million miles away, so the shadows it's going to cast, it being 1,000,000 times bigger than the Earth, is going to be the same on the entire continent, right? So if the pictures on the moon are taken in sunlight, as is claimed, then all the shadows will always run parallel and will never intersect with one another.
They'll always run parallel.
We have Apollo 17, last mission to the moon. This is just a perfect example. You've got the astronaut shadow going at 12 o'clock here, and you got a rock about 5 feet away going at 9 o'clock. Now, I've never heard any explanation for this. All the, we went to the moon people, they've ignored it until recently because it so blatantly contradicts that it was taken in sunlight. I'll show you in a minute. It was definitely taken with electrical light to explain, the anomaly. Otherwise, it means we didn't go to the moon. So they say this tiny little Earth, and most of the pictures was like this big of the astronaut's head here, is somehow causing the shadow. Well, the Earth shining off the ocean from 400 million miles away. I don't think it's going to compete with the sunlight on the moon, which is 20 times brighter. It's like flashing a sunlight flashlight out in sunlight. The flashlight's not going to show up. Then they say, well, the reflective surfaces. Well, if that were true, it would be diffused fill light, and it would bounce off the surface straight up. So if there were any shadows, it'd be on the ceiling.
I'm not 100% sure I understand what he's trying to say here.
The same length of the astronaut, about 5 feet, and the rock's about, I don't know, whatever dimension this is, let's say.
Like, if this is a shadow here, like, I feel like this shadow would check out.
2/3 of a foot from here to here, and there's 2/3 of a foot shadow, right? So whatever's casting the shadow is a light, and it's the same light, because they each have the same length, and it's not, sunlight, which would be parallel, so it's an electrical light. So here's a segment that they intended to use to debunk us folks who say that the moon landings were a government forgery.
Claims we relied on our own technical knowledge as filmmakers to create a lunar set. We chose the Trump Inhouse, a desert area 4 hours from Hollywood, the home of movie making. Our moon set will be used as a backdrop, not to fake our own lunar landings, but to challenge the hoax theories. Can't duplicate the intensity of the sun here in the night desert. Our single studio light is powerful enough for our experiments. By testing some of the most famous conspiracy arguments, can we put the lunar fraud theories to rest once and for all? The morning after the shoot, the negatives are developed at a professional processing laboratory in Los Angeles.
Our experiment in the desert, we shot a variety of photographs using different film formats. In this 35mm photograph, we see that the shadows of the crew members in our single light source very distinctly converge together. In fact, there's almost a 90 degree difference in the apparent shadow direction.
These results directly contradict the conspiracy claims. The results of our photographic experiment appear to be overwhelming.
First of all, they went to a desert at night, but remember, the pictures on the moon are supposed to be taken with sunlight, not with electrical light.
How do we know, is this specific photo supposed to be, see, this is where it becomes hard, because it's like this random picture, and I'm assuming they may have taken many pictures, some with their own lights and some with sunlight or something. I don't know. I could be making that up, but I'm not sure I understand this theory, because like it feels like the shadows kind of check out for the most part.
The intensity of the sun.
But they can. They could have duplicated the sun by going there 12 hours later and shooting the exact same scene in sunlight, because that's the conditions on the moon, right? Sunlight here, right? And not sunlight, electrical lighting here. So take a look at their conclusion. They went to a desert at night rather than shooting sunlight in sunlight. They're trying to duplicate the moon pictures, which were supposedly taken in sunlight, and they do it with an electrical light rather than in sunlight. And here's the results that they get.
In this 35mm photograph, we see that the shadows of the crew members in our single light source very distinctly converge together. In fact, there's almost a 90 degree difference in the apparent shadow direction.
This is normal that the shadows intersect, right? Because they're about to say,
These results directly contradict the conspiracy claims.
okay, they directly contradict the conspiracy claims. It actually proves the conspiracy claims, right?
I'm
They're saying
so
this is normal,
confused.
shadows intersect in our example of the moon, therefore, the point of the people like myself, it's not true. But wait a minute. They duplicated the moon pictures with electrical light, which means that the moon pictures were also taken with electrical light. You see? He says they intersect at almost 90 degrees, and how did they intersect at almost 90?
So what he's trying to claim here, that it's it's electrical light and not sunlight, but like,
from an electrical
did they
light
take
source.
every
They're
single
coming from the same light source, but when one person stands on the left of the light and one person stands on the right of the light,
video?
compared to,
I'm so
the moon is bigger than
confused.
the Earth's sun.
See, I'm
That's
not
one of the
educated
answers.
enough to
Because
know
there was
whether or
something
not that
about it.
photo
So
is
he said,
supposed to. For this episode, I'm going to directly have chat answer some of these questions for me because I just don't even know relative to how that sunlight thing is happening. Like, for me, in my head, it would have been like, if it is the sun, I would think the sun was super bright or something. It's saying here, like I was saying, he's conspiring that it's studio lighting. And realistically, here's what chat's actually saying, that the sun is a massive studio light. And here's the key shift, that the sun isn't like a flashlight. It's like an infinite floodlight blasting on everything. So on Earth, the light gets scattered by the atmosphere and shadows are softened. On the moon, there is no atmosphere. The light is harsh, direct, and extremely high contrast. So instead of soft shadows, you get pitch black areas, blinding bright surfaces, and that contrast alone makes it look fake to our eyes. So the ground is not flat on the moon either. People assume that it is like a flat stage, and it's not. It's uneven, sloped, and covered in craters and ridges. So what happens with that? With even one light source, shadows fall across different angles, and they appear to diverge or bend. The perspective tricks your brain. Parallel lines don't always look parallel. Okay, so that was his argument earlier with the parallel line. For some reason, railroad tracks seem to meet in a distance. Those that are actually parallel can appear angled, intersecting, or inconsistent. Your brain reads that as multiple lights, and it's just perspective. So why is the astronaut lit in the shadow? This is Bart's big gotcha. If he's in the shadow, why can we still see him? The answer is reflected light. The moon's surface acts like a giant reflector. The moonlight hits the ground, it bounces up, it softly illuminates shadowed areas, and this is called the albedo reflection. The same thing happens on Earth. Snow can light up your face at night, and sand can brighten shadows at the beach. So, it seems like chat is kind of like debunking this. Listen, if I could hear that it would make sense.
He claims when it actually proves the conspiracy claims. There's so many reasons why they did not.
I wouldn't say that.
First of all, the rocket did not have enough fuel. Here's from an article which I'll link below in the description of this video. This is von Braun, who built the rocket to go to the moon. And this is what he said it would take to go to the moon. It is commonly believed that men will fly directly from the Earth to the moon, but to do this would require a vehicle of such gigantic proportions that it would prove to be an economic impossibility. Calculations have been carefully worked out on the type of vehicle we would need for the non-stop flight from the Earth to the moon and return. The figures speak for themselves. 3 rockets would be necessary. Each rocket ship would be taller than the Empire State Building, or 1,250 feet, and weigh about 10 times the tonnage of the Queen Mary, or 800,000 pounds. So the Saturn...
See, the thing is about this is, like, don't they blast it off into space all the time? So I don't know how this one makes sense to me. I'm open to it not being real, but I need for it to make sense. So apparently you need way less energy to take off from the moon. It seems like there's a certain amount of miles per hour needed to get to Earth and to the moon, and they did do enough fuel. It says that they had so much that they were able to precisely calculate it with a margin. So it says NASA didn't guess. They modeled the trajectory, tested engines extensively, included safety margins. And the thing is like they've sent other people into space for like different amounts of time, and I just don't understand how that couldn't have been the case. And now at this point, they did it again, and I'm sure they'll kind of like pull all the same things. I'm not sure this one holds up. I don't know.
5 rocket weighed 2,500 tons. Okay? And there was only one of them and not 3 of them. It's a difference of 32,000%. And this is the person who says that the rocket can reach the moon, when in fact it's only 132,000 or 3,200, the proper size. He said you'd have to build a space station first to go to the moon, and we have a video of that.
Here to reveal a plan for a trip around the moon is the chief of the guided missile development at the United States Army's Redstone Arsenal, Dr. Werner von Braun. A voyage around the moon must be made in 2 phases. A rocket ship taking off from the Earth's surface will use up all the fuel it can carry just to attain a speed great enough to balance the pull of gravity. Unpowered, it will then keep circling the Earth in an orbit outside of the atmosphere. This is the first phase. However, if we can refuel the ship in this orbit...
The spaceship like dropped pieces as it was going, so it didn't need the same exact fuel supply. So he doesn't really ever talk about that, I don't hear.
The fuel brought up by cargo rocket ships, it can set out on the second phase, the trip around the moon and back. To facilitate this refueling operation...
Apparently the re-entry isn't fuel powered. A lot of it is just falling back into the Earth's atmosphere.
Establish an advanced base in the orbit, 1,000 miles above the Earth. This advanced base, or space station, would be headquarters for the final ascent to the moon.
That doesn't prove anything to me. I don't know. What was that? I'm not sure I understand.
So there you have it.
That looked like some sort of fake hoax 70s video.
You have a space station built first in order to go to the moon, right? Okay.
No, that's just some guy claiming that. That doesn't, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude or nothing, but that one, I don't think that one holds up for me, because I could get on there and find somebody making certain statements about certain things in like 1 or 2 all videos. That doesn't make it necessarily the case.
There's an article we're taking a look at here. This just came out.
Like there's other truths that can be had here.
Moon landing. NASA chief admits why Apollo 11 era technology cannot land on the moon. NASA chief admits Apollo 11 technology cannot land on the moon. Well, it says, hey, the moon landings are real, but it says that's equipment that worked so successfully, it won't work today. Okay. What was the heading of that again? It says, NASA chief admits Apollo 11 technology cannot land on the moon. We can't.
Oh, okay. I need to look this one up. The chief said, as a part of our current Artemis lunar exploration program, we published a draft solicitation asking U.S. industry to think about how they would build an integrated human landing system that would land the first woman and next man on the moon in the next 5 years. If you're wondering why NASA doesn't simply dust off Apollo lander designs to put humans on the moon by 2024, you're not alone. Yes, we had a highly successful moon program in the past, in which we won the space race, but we now have new goals for Artemis, which is a stepping stone for Mars. The primary objective of NASA's Artemis is to develop reusable, reliable lunar landing systems for astronauts. I'm not sure how that's pointing us to, and they're talking about Artemis. What? He said in the thing that we had a successful moon landing. He said the next man on the moon. So where is that in the article?
It worked so successfully, it won't work today. Okay. What was the heading of that again?
And why aren't you showing the whole article? Like, this is the kind of stuff. We're going to talk about why people do this later. This is actually something that I personally believe is when you start to prime your reticular activating system for conspiracies, you start to be able to not see anything else that's outlined, and your brain only points to certain things and takes that as ultimate truth. And actually, you start to build neurons that blind you to other potentialities or truths, because you have focused so hard on this specific thing and you've made it your truth that you've then started to create new synapses in your brain where you blind yourself, like I was saying a moment ago, to any other possibilities or to the evidence that is presenting itself outside of the other pieces that you feel may be claiming to the proofs of your belief that the moon landing is fake. Like, for example, this is with anything. I'm just saying with this specifically. So let me go back because I don't understand where he's reading that. NASA landed on the moon 50 years ago this month in the evening hours of July 20th, 1969. At this time, the Apollo 11 moon landing and its spacecraft were hailed as a manual of, I think that's what that says, of engineering and science. Half a century later, however, NASA's top brass has admitted Apollo's lunar landers are no longer adequate for modern lunar exploration. Okay, see, like, for me, if that's the case, that means, like, we're not going to use this old junky shit Because the other thing is I read some other article talks about the Van whatever belt. We'll talk about that. He'll bring it up, I'm sure. They have survived through it, but the outer core has been created so it could survive that heat. And recently, apparently, some of the pieces busted off when they weren't supposed to bust off. So it's extremely dangerous what they're doing. They could potentially be hurt, but they're still obviously, as astronauts, risking going through those heat belts because they believe the crafts can make it. Even if they do bust a few pieces off, they'll get through them. So I'm not understanding that. Like, I would make sure that all of that stuff was redone too. I would want the creme de la creme rocket ships and things of this nature. I wouldn't want busted ass spacecrafts from 1969. This doesn't make sense to me.
But it says that's equipment that works so successfully, it won't work today.
No, like it wouldn't, because I'm not saying that we couldn't I believe we probably still could, but should we? No, because they've proven that going through certain areas can bust up the spacecraft. They've seen this. They've survived it. They've landed. It's been okay. But that doesn't mean that in the future we should still use the cruddy old machines. What? I'm kind of confused on this one. I'm not seeing eye to eye on this.
Okay. What was the hit in the technology to go to the moon, which was done a decade before?
Listen, if it makes sense, I'll agree with it.
So the technology to do the most outrageous technological claim, and no plane had ever worked on its first flight ever in the history of aviation. You know, the record took, I don't know, several tries to get off the ground. The 747 right here, it took 162 engine designs before they could lift that fuselage.
Wow.
But the most complicated equipment of all time, going to the moon, worked on the first time. But they can't do it today.
Wait, I'm not sure if I understand that. Like, didn't they blast off multiple? Wait, I'm fact checking this because that one doesn't make sense to me, what he just said. Just like I thought chat would tell me that Apollo 11 was like version 10.0 and not version 1, because they built rocket programs and there were failures. I remember this stuff. Like, there was things that exploded. Like, I'm not a genius by any accounts or remember half of this stuff, but I remember these different rockets back in the day, like, exploding. There was engine failures, and it says NASA learned the hard way. It said there was Saturn test flights. They were uncrewed. Apollo 6 apparently had major issues. It had engine problems and vibrations, and it did not just work. Apparently the Apollo 7, it tested life support, it tested command module systems, and it stayed close to Earth. And then Apollo 8 was the first trip around the moon. There was no landing, no orbit. It just proved we can get there back and alive. So Apollo 9 was the lunar module testing. It tested the lunar module in Earth orbit, docking, separation, and maneuvering. Apollo 11 was the full dress rehearsal where they went to the moon. The lunar module descended 50,000 feet above the surface, everything except the landing. And then Apollo 11 was the actual landing, and by this point, they had already tested almost every single step. So I don't know what he was talking about, like 162 tries to fly a plane. The argument sounds like it's convincing, but it took the moon landing. Like, how many times did we say? They didn't even count all who knows how many rockets busted.
And here's an interesting clip here I think you'll like. This is from an astronaut, a NASA astronaut. Let's hear what he has to say here.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Okay, so they destroyed the technology.
Who was that person that said that? Who was this man? A NASA astronaut? Which NASA astronaut? NASA deliberately destroyed moon technology? Okay, wait a minute. So what Chad is saying is that after Apollo, the Saturn rocket program ended, factories shut down, specialized tooling was scrapped, and contractors moved on, which means that exact pipeline was gone. And it wasn't because of secrecy, but it was because the program ended. And we didn't lose gravity equations, orbital mechanics, or rocket science. What we did lose would have been the specific blueprints in active use, manufacturing processes, and supply chains, which in the 60s, that documentation apparently was super fragile. A lot of it was paper documents, microfilm, and magnetic tapes. So some things were lost and degraded and degraded and not digitized. So some of the parts of the implementation details did fade, but the knowledge was in the people. A huge portion of Apollo lived in engineers' intuition, hands-on problem solving and trial and error. But over the last 50 years, people did retire and people did pass away, so that human layer can't be archived perfectly from that time, which okay. So I think what he was trying to say is like they're not attempting to rebuild Apollo exactly how it was, and nor, in my opinion, should they. Building new systems like the Artemis program, which means new designs, new safety standards, and new materials. It's not a copy and paste, it's a redesign, which, again, in my opinion, should be done. They should not be using that old ass technology. That's crazy town to me. I would be pissed if they tried to put me back in old ass technology from the 60s.
I can go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Okay, so they destroyed the technology to go to the moon.
They have Artemis already, like.
It's never been done in the history of the entire world.
Oh, I don't know what this is.
Rebellion is not tolerated. Obey, consume.
What is this?
Trust the government.
Conspiracy theory type things happening where we're brainwashing people.
It's watching. Remember, it's government God. It's real. So it's the government.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the God, believing government God. Here it is.
That's weird.
So this is what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. And now here's the number one proof, in my mind, that we didn't go to the moon. As much as the 90-degree shadows, that's probably even more proof. But you're about to see it in front of your eyes.
Okay.
Here's the deal I got.
Here we
With
go.
the long label on it. I was the only reporter who went through every single footage from the first moon mission. I figured if they fake it, I didn't know if it was fake or not. I thought it might be. I figured they made a mistake the first time they faked it. So I went through everything. The it says here it's not. And it never came out until after my film was out, and suddenly other people released it after that to say it means nothing. You decide for yourself. This is what convinces most people that the moon missions are fake. This is an image from NASA, okay, that they claim is the Earth floating in space. This was taken about a day and a half, 2 days into the mission, and this is allegedly them having the camera up against the window. The lens literally against. They cannot leave Earth orbit. We'll go into that a little bit later. Not only is this the only unedited tape, except one other we'll get into at some future point.
I don't know what they leave Earth. What? Don't they leave Earth orbit all the time? What?
There's NASA, saying, hey, Apollo 11, the TV picture looks great.
I'm confused on that one.
Third channel of audio, right on top of the microphone, no radio EQ, like NASA and the astronauts, and they say, talk. So they made the astronauts wait 4 seconds before they respond to a question because they're still in Earth orbit, which is no surprise. 50 years later, they can't leave Earth orbit, but they're pretending to be halfway to the moon. So if this were the Earth and the moon.
So what chat is saying is that the audio was extremely messy and layered. The Apollo comms were not clean, isolated, or modern digital audio. And I think he attempted to digitally enhance this in some way. But apparently there were multiple channels. There was crosstalk between circuits. There was analog signal distortion and delays and overlaps. So inside the NASA control rooms, there were flight directors, Capcoms, the ones that were talking to the astronaut, engineers on separate loops, and background chatter. So everything that you would have heard doesn't necessarily mean that it was directed at the astronaut. Sometimes it could have been someone else talking on a different channel, apparently. And the word might not even be talk. So this is where it gets interesting. Audio from that era had low fidelity. It was compressed and static filled. And your brain attempts to clean it up and match it to familiar words. This is called pareidolia. I think I don't know if I said that right, but hearing meaningful words in an unclear sound. So it could be, instead of talk, it could be, okay, lock, Roger, clipped weirdly, or a part of another sentence bleeding in. And there was also a transmission delay. So it could have sounded like random commands, it said. It said, if this were stage, why would there be sloppy audio, random background chatter, confusing overlaps? A studio production would have clean audio, clear direction, and no accidental leaks. The pattern behind this claim, it says the same structure as the others. Hear something unclear, assign meaning to it, and build a narrative around that meaning. Sounds like you're not hearing a director say talk. You're hearing the 1960s analog's audio, and your brain is trying to turn noise into meaning. And if this were fake, it would sound like a movie. Instead, this sounds like a bunch of engineers talking over each other, because that's exactly what it was. So we're trying to pinpoint what seems like the smallest minutia detail of something to try to turn it into this narrative that could potentially feed what he's saying.
It would take, a second and a half or so, second and a half to come back, plus all the analog equipment. They estimated 4 seconds delay. It would probably be more like 8 back then, or maybe more. Even today in New York and Los Angeles, you see two, an anchor news person talking to a person in New York. It's like 2-second delay. And that's here on Earth going, 2,000 miles. But they were estimating that. So you hear NASA say, hey, the picture looks great. And then you'll eventually hear Neil Armstrong respond, but he's prompted with talk after 4 seconds go by. He had an earpiece in, this secret tape. They had the third track of CIA. Listen. So let's just listen to that one more time. But you'll see that this is really.
I'm not getting that. That sounded like it could have been like
spacecraft back here. Maybe 10 feet away. All 3 spacecrafts are coupled together here, and this is a circular window. And originally,
it could have been also like
covers this whole area. They're in Earth orbit, and this is backlit.
Nothing.
I think they put a photograph.
That is, I feel like that's reaching.
This is what they claim.
This is reaching, in my opinion.
Okay, so he just claimed, and that's in the record, Neil Armstrong saying this is 130,000 miles out, right? Okay, let's just put that over here. Neil Armstrong's hair from his arm get in front of the window here. You don't need to hear the audio here, but you'll take a look at it here. See, there's this get in front of the window. They never showed that, but we have the unedited version, you see. And so that's either the arm of God moving across the earth, right? Or it's a model of the earth, which you'll see in a second, beyond a doubt that that's what it is.
Why does that look like they just had a shadow, like he was taking a picture and his arm got in the way? Confirmed what I said. It said, sit next to a plain window, raise your hand, move it near the glass. It will look like your hand is in front of the sky, but obviously it's just perspective. And understand the scale of the environment and the lighting. So that what?
Remember here, they're saying this is 130,000 miles out, right? Take a listen.
Okay.
So this is 130,000 miles out.
Okay.
And here is the same picture over here. This is the unedited reel.
Okay.
Here's what, according to the NASA record, is 130,000 miles out. And then here's the exact same thing.
Okay.
But this is the unedited version. They actually hit the stop button, and there's a flash. They had manual buttons, and the flash was the electric current almost connecting, but the button didn't stop it. It kept recording, revealing the true identity of the window.
Okay.
So here's a work light up here of them. They had it diffused. They turned out all the lights so it would be mainly dark.
Okay.
Press a piece of material into the window to look like a Terminator line.
So in my opinion, this would be the equivalency of like you being in the spaceship. Like imagine you being in space with a camera attempting to take a picture of the Earth, and this is like your shady Earth picture. Because I try to take pictures from the plane, and they're okay, they're decent. I should flash pictures up of the last flight that I took. It's not as foggy because I am much lower and I am in a well-lit area. This is literally in space looking down at the Earth, so I could picture myself being in that position right now.
You see they're starting to take away the screen here from the window. In fact, let's just make that full screen so you can see this really well. Okay, so that's them moving the stuff from in front of the window.
Okay.
The screen or the photographic effect.
Sure.
And then here it is when they open up the iris, and the camera has been at the back of the spacecraft the entire time. Neil Armstrong said that they had the lens at the window, but in fact it was the window all the time doing an effect. So you have...
What? I'm so confused on what he's trying to claim here.
Window, removing part of the screen or the photographic effect. And then here it is when they open up the iris, and the camera has been at the back of the spacecraft the entire time. Neil Armstrong said...
What? Is it that they had the camera here and then they turned it around
stuff from in front of the window,
to them?
Photographic effect. And then here it is when they open up the iris, and the camera has been at the back.
Is this them turning it around to them?
They had the lens at the window, but in fact it was the...
I'm so confused.
Window all the time doing an effect. So you have right here.
This one's confusing me.
Miles out, and here when they thought the tape was stopped recording, when it kept recording anyway, you'll see another example of that later. And you realize it's just the circular window of the Earth in Earth orbit. You're seeing part of the Earth out the window, or a photograph of the Earth backlit from Earthshine. They're moving it away, they're getting ready, they're about to open up the iris, and you see that in fact the camera has always been at the back of the spacecraft, and it's an effect. They're pretending to be halfway to the moon when they're still in Earth orbit. Now, why would they be doing that?
I'm so confused about that one. I'm not sure I understand that one.
1,000 miles and extending another 25,000 miles is this field of radiation. Every manned mission, Skylab, the Space Shuttle, Soyuz, Mercury, Gemini, they were all below the radiation except going to the moon. You'd have to go through it. And you're about to see from NASA.
Yeah, but they already did that with all the other ones. So, and they already,
Are deadly. And
I'm not even going to, like, I don't even feel like watching this one because we've already proven that they've gone through them and pieces of the rocket have fallen off, of the ship have fallen off due to that, and that it's freaking dangerous. So I'm not.
That the technology to go through them has yet to be invented.
No, we do have it. So, like, I don't understand this one. This one I'm really confused about. Like, this one, it feels like so strange because they're claiming that we do have the technology and that it works, but that it needs to be upgraded because it could potentially slip off the ship due to the heat and the radiation. I'm so confused. I'm pretty sure one of the astronauts that went said that there is radiation, but it's not enough to hurt them.
An area of dangerous radiation.
And they test this out constantly. So this one, I'm not understanding either. And this guy's probably going to say, like, there's too much something and something. And it says Orion radiation. But that was probably some specific thing that they were passing through at that time. And so let's see what he's got to say here.
As if they don't have enough fuel to zigzag around to go through. They barely can get into Earth orbit with all the fuel they got to get off the ground. So they leave right through it. Orion leaves right through it. Apollo leaves right through it. Apollo admits they leave right through it. And these fanboys and girls say they went around it, but that's simply admitting that the radiation is deadly. Because look at a 1969 press kit.
But I don't, somebody tell me in the comments. I swore they said that they went through it. Like, they have shielding and it's gone through it. I can't with that one.
It's a model of the Earth.
That one's confusing me.
They're faking being halfway to the moon, which means that they did not go to the moon. They cannot leave Earth orbit. And what a surprise, 50 years later, they still can't leave Earth orbit. And the guy just admitted the technology to go through the radiation has yet to be invented.
I wouldn't think that was like a reason to not believe that happened. Like, I wouldn't have linked that. I'm not I link a lot of things together.
So we can go. This new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
To do that eventually? To do what eventually?
See, this is like out of context. Did that man mean that? Or see, like, if he would have been saying that and I would have heard that, I would have thought he meant like mankind, like we're all like, I'm showing up to the moon. Like, they're going to start making space stations and I can show up. I can get my ticket and go to the moon and Mars. That's what that's sounding like. Not that we're never have been there and going back.
The moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
He hopes to eventually go to the moon. China says it's going to take them until like the year 2032 to go to the moon. It's going to take twice as long to go to the moon than Kennedy's goal of 50-year-old technology today, because you need to build.
See, the thing is like, I feel like China would not accept that then. They would 100% be calling us a lie. And didn't somebody say they congratulated us? Or was that Russia? I don't know.
In which microphone was left on accidentally. Things are recorded accidentally, you know. You probably have heard of astronauts gone wild when I got punched by Buzz Aldrin for calling him a liar, coward, and thief. Which he is. And so am I. Everyone's lied and stolen and been a coward, repent of it, you know, and he makes a living off of it. And it was disrespectful to talk to him that way. He's older than me. I shouldn't have said that.
Well, at least he admits that.
Big deal.
That's at least I mean, he did get punched out, so.
And when I asked him to pop a tape of his on the screen of his great mission, he accidentally put in a tape of the fake moon landing, showing my footage here. The fake window shot. He was keeping up with the latest scoop on how we didn't go to the moon.
Okay, here we go.
On top of his VCR, in his VCR. In any case, I'm asking him here about the window shot. I guess he can just...
Here we go.
That in the top left. That's the Earth. Is that like another spacecraft?
No. But I had no idea what that is. It's an aberration on the film sensor. Oh, those are shadows, I think. Or reflection, probably reflections. They're just reflecting.
And that again, so we get another shot of that.
If you ever press me on this, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, because I won't pursue this. All of this attempt to say the Apollo programs were fake is just sheer nonsense, and you can talk till hell freezes over, and you're wrong.
Okay, would you...
Look, this man is pissed off.
Then you walk on the moon?
You bet your sweet ass.
Okay.
Ooh, he said, I bet your sweet ass. You bet my sweet ass.
It's and say, I, Andrew Mitchell, affirm, under penalty of eternal damnation, I don't believe in that, but if you penalty of eternal damnation, that I walked on the moon on Apollo 14. That I walked on the moon on Apollo 14. Well, you're the first astronaut to do that. We asked 6 other astronauts to swear on the Bible, and they refused to do it. Well,
Look, I mean, this man just did it though, and he said he don't even believe in this stuff and did it.
I don't particularly like to think it was like that either, because I don't accept the Bible as a gospel of anything except a historical record. But we did go to the moon. You bet your sweet ass we did the moon. Okay, turn off the camera.
You bet your sweet ass we went to the moon.
Good to meet you. I don't say it's a pleasure. Understand. Please get your ass out of my house. Okay. And you came here under false pretenses, and I think you're an asshole.
Oh man, he went in on him.
I will personally take you to court.
Oh shit!
I invite you to.
I never saw this.
And I'm continuing your rights. You're frankly not worthy. No. We have you on the record saying you'll take me to court. I hope you do, because we have proof that we've proven in a court of law that Apollo 11 didn't go to the moon. And I think it's something that you should see. I don't say that lightly.
Do you see the way? Do you hear the way he belly laughs?
People can have fun. And maybe do that if they feel like they want to have a little fun on a trip to the moon.
Oh my gosh!
We're done now. Doing that is against the moral.
You're gonna give this man a. You're gonna freak this man out.
You're going to be on the deck and
Yo, this is wild.
we have a video camera ready if you want to do it.
Oh my gosh.
See you later.
Okay, so I was just threatened to be assassinated by the CIA. We accidentally left the microphone on him and all the hullabaloo, being kicked out, door closed. These things work for half a mile. My cameraman's inexperienced. He puts the camera in the backseat of the rental car and it keeps recording. So we pick up the audio of the son of the astronaut suggesting to call their, special friends at the CIA, want to call the CIA and have them waxed or assassinated. And if they really went to the moon,
It sounds like he's trying to claim that he was being said that, or he was being told that he was going to be whacked or something. This is allegedly, supposedly, I don't know. It's like what I'm understanding here by the
not
CIA
just believing in fantasy.
about this
The CIA
moon
would
thing.
call to have me assassinated. I don't know. Oh, did I mention to you? Here's a great joke. You'll like this one. The Bart original. How many CIA agents does it take to screw in a light bulb? Well, I can tell you, but then I have to kill you. Here's the most famous picture of
This is
allegedly a
stupid.
man on the moon. Now, this is one of the earlier prints because they color corrected it, because there's even one, I'm having a hard trouble finding. This is one color, it's a brown. And right here, it changes to blue. You can see blue to brown, brown to blue. Right there going across. See that? Right there. Brown, yellow in this color, kind of yellowish brown.
Okay.
Right above that blue, because this is the wall behind them. They have like real landscape going
What?
as well, and then they've got it over here, this line where it becomes a wall. Let's hear what the Armstrong had to say.
Wow.
This is the 25th anniversary.
I don't know what to say about this.
Let's see what he says here.
Today we have with us a group of students, among America's best. To you, we say, we've only completed the beginning. We leave you much that is undone. There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers.
And look at him, truth's protective layers. What does that mean? And with this kind of sad scowl, that being the statement. And here's their picture at the press conference.
Well, I don't. That's you're reaching. That's really
Is
reaching.
this like a Super Bowl victory or the funeral of your mother?
They're probably tired.
That was worth 1,000 words. This one's probably worth about 75 billion. Well, 175 billion actually, which is the dollar equivalent of what it cost in today's dollars to go to the moon. Okay, you've been bamboozled long enough then to convince them that to happen.
I mean, I do really like that
That's pride, you know.
that
11.
saying. Listen, I don't really have any type of skin in the game. I'm looking at it from my own perspective, from like a conspiracy theorist perspective, but ultimately I don't find that his evidence is very convincing in my opinion. I think that it's kind of weak compared to what chat was proposing to me was the answers for that. So I'm not trying to say that like still there couldn't be the possibility, but at the end of the day, I believe that they did go to the moon and I believe they're going to go again. And I believe we're going to start landing on these places like Mars and they're going to start setting up space stations in the future. And I'll laugh when they take Bart there and he actually flies to Mars and the moon or something. I wonder if that could potentially happen in this lifetime for him so he can see that there is a possibility to land on the moon. And that would be phenomenal work. Or take him to Mars. Can't we do that? Isn't there like a possibility to start doing stuff like this too? So he could visit there. And I say this to also say that being a simulation theorist, I do believe in the neuroscience of the avatar. And I believe that you do reprogram the way you see reality through your reticular activating system and also through the neural synapses that you create in your brain through the repetitive actions, the things that you focus on, the things that you say to yourself, the things that you are in constant focus and attention of. And if you are constantly researching how we did not land on the moon, your brain will start to show you evidence of this. For example, you will start to train your subconscious to show you nothing but evidence that would indicate to you that a moon landing is impossible. So when you even see evidence pointed to the fact that it's proving you wrong potentially, your brain will not see it. Like you actually won't be able to see the evidence because you're so blocked. You have built your neural synapses to completely block out that rendering of reality for yourself almost. So it's feels like you're brainwashed to where you cannot neutrally process information anymore, and every little thing that you think that you see, like the twitch of somebody's smile, the way somebody might look downtrodden in a photo, you're automatically assuming that it's because they did not land on the moon. Any small speculation, anything that could be potentially a piece of evidence, even if it is absolutely ridiculous, sounds like it could be plausible because it feeds into the agenda of the fact that we did not land on the moon. So, does it start to begin to cross into that ego territory where at that point you will go to your grave thinking that and saying that because you are unable to further process any other reality because you have not even allowed yourself to, due to the fact that you have done nothing but pound the same thing over and over again instead of looking for all the ways over and over again that it could be it factually that they did go to the moon. It would be more someplace in the neutral ground middle. I think that's why a lot of scientists like to claim that they don't want to give a definitive answer on the way they feel about things. Because I think maybe potentially it's different how different people experience and perceive and understand the nature of reality according to how your neurology is beginning to get set up. And the more we evolve as a species and begin to focus on these things and begin to grow our communications and synapses in the brain, we will start to have even more success in these very niche areas. And there would be a way that you could attempt to prove these things to the folks that do not believe that that is the case. The reason I do believe it's real is because there's too many things pointing to the fact that they did go. There's too much evidence. They have moon rocks. They have all kinds of other things that people do try to debunk all of these things too, but they have studies where they test the rock and it has been verified by multiple sources globally that it is not of earth matter. And there's just all these other things that really do indicate that there was space travel. And why would you think that there's not? If you believe that there's aliens, why would you believe that there's not capabilities to go to the moon or to these other areas and explore space, just like probably there's other creatures out here in the simulation probably doing as well. So to attempt to deny these things is very interesting to me. And the reasons why we would deny this don't make much sense. Like, I understand we want to be the first ones there and we would want to like hit the race on that. But so many other areas and nations and countries are technologically advanced and they've also done space travel. And I'm pretty sure other countries will be going to the moon at some point, and they say China will be going, but that doesn't mean that we didn't go and that we didn't achieve that specific thing. And here's the thing, it's dangerous. Like, I don't know how many people want to constantly be traveling to the moon, because not only is it dangerous, it costs a lot of money. And right now is probably the time where we could probably actually afford these things and be able to start to make it a more regular thing, to where, I don't know, could there be space stations like I was saying, and very common travel there, to where there could be tourism one day in like 30 or 40 years. I don't know. Just wondering if that could be a potentiality in the future. But then in the future, they will just say it's not real. It's a VR headset and we're being duped that we're not really going to the moon. But at the end of the day, this whole thing is really the grand dupe and illusion, because if we did or did not go to the moon, honestly, for me, it does not matter. I do believe we did, but if we didn't, like I said earlier, it would just be another one of those covert issues with the government where they do things and don't ever tell us the truth about certain things, and they would claim it was to keep the country safe or for some sort of secret or some sort of crap like that, if that actually was the case. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video, that you found it interesting that we reviewed this, and let me know in the comments below whether you think we landed on the moon and how it does affect you, if we did land on the moon or if we didn't land on the moon. Until the next time, guys, on this episode, we're going to make sure to question everything. So, bye, guys.